singing like we normally do at this time, and that was because I wanted to give Craig and Rhonda ample time to be able to share with us. And so, without further delay, I'll invite them to come up and just share what God's laid on their hearts.
Thank you. I prepared a PowerPoint this week because that's what I do at work, so it was easy kind of just to put together, and then I can stay on task, and so can Craig. He could talk for hours about our trip, but I'm just glad he enjoyed himself as much as I did. So, is it up there, Tim? Or are you having trouble with it? We meant to come over yesterday and try it out, but our day didn't allow that. So I'm going to talk a little bit how we ended up going and meeting, and then Craig will tell more about our trip. So the internet is not all bad, right? In 2014, when I started to be really sick and short of breath all the time, I started chatting, and I met a lot of different people. I have friends in England and Nova Scotia. I had one in India for a while, and then one in Gambia. And we just started chatting. Actually, one night he said that he hoped, or the first time we met, he said, "Would you talk to a young black man?" Well, sure I would. And from then on, we've chatted almost every day. And I'm having trouble breathing today. I don't know if you can tell, but that's kind of rough. I come back and then it hits again. But anyways, we started chatting. We chat about everything from religion to family to how people here are the same over there. We have the same type of personalities. We have good people. We have bad people. And you can see the star where that is, and I do pull it in closer. I pulled this up on Google, and Craig has pegged several things on there. That's why there's markings. But you can see Gambia is a very tiny sliver there, and Senegal is a country that wraps around it. And when we were traveling one day, I asked them why that is, and they said the French got Senegal and the English got Gambia. So there's a lot of French speaking around it, but most of the people in Gambia, a lot of them speak English. And then I put up that not everyone is a giver, especially this guy. He was only a taker. He just wanted food from us. But this was on our porch at our Airbnb that we got. But not everybody is a giver and wants to give freely or have the urge to give freely. I'm a giver. My husband, thank goodness, just follows along and be like, okay. But you are supposed to give till it hurts at times. And I have given our checkbook chest pain from giving. But I will say that anytime we have given when their need was a little bit higher than what our need was, there's always money left in your checkbook, and you don't really understand how that's still there, but it is. It's just an amazing thing that can happen. So my wish, this was when more monkeys were coming. We had like 1 or 2, and then there were 4 or 5, and then there were 8 or 10, and I think there were about 12 or 13 this day, but one day I took little Aisha, the little girl, to the pool, and 31 came around, and were just hanging all over balconies, and they kind of caused trouble. They kept jumping on a lamppost, and it would fall down, and then we'd fix it, and another one would come and land on it and knock it back down. But my wish was to go over, and I've wanted to go over for probably 6 of the 9 years that I have known them, and it was my will. But that wasn't God's will. I couldn't breathe well enough. And I finally said to them, I'm sorry, but I will never make it over. My health is too bad. It's not going to improve. So I just won't be able to go over. And I have to keep telling myself of that mind because I felt like I would mention, boy, it would be nice if I could come over. And they would be like, oh, that's great. And then I'd get their hopes up. And the next thing you know, I'd have a bad spell and be off work 3 weeks. It was a rough, but it's not our will, right? It's God's will. So with prayers from all of their family who continues to pray for us. In fact, we went in, we had a nice family moment with their mom a couple of the brothers and the sister when we gave them the cash that was given to take over. And in their room is a picture of Lisa and I in her room. And I'd sent it over to my friend, Lamin, and his mother took it because she wanted to remember to pray for me all the time. And so there's our picture that I just randomly sent over because they don't print pictures out there. They just don't have the capability. With the prayers, I got to see the Banjo International Airport is where we flew into. But the nudge was, I always say to my kids, don't you ever feel like God doing this to you? And they're like, no, Mother. I think they do. They just don't recognize it all the time. But I kept getting a nudge that maybe we should go over, And Craig and I had so many discussions about it. But it wasn't until last January I had 2 catheterizations and a doctor who's willing to work with my meds, and I can't believe the turnaround that I've had. I've been better this year, this past 12 months, than I have in the past 6 years. So once I started to feel better, I'm like, well, maybe we could go over. And so when we finally decided, I can't say that we had loads of money and that we could really afford it. We just knew that that was time to go. And I think we both know that that was a perfect time. The bowl, what? Oh, yeah. This is at the seaside, and this is how they always eat. They prepare huge amounts, what they call rice, but it's actually quinoa, which has some nutrition in it, some of the wheat, and spices. They have lots of vegetables in there, and I don't actually know what all the vegetables were. And there's, you can barely see it, but there's 1 chicken leg in there for 6 kids. I did see some of the kids pulling out the vegetables and like moving them so they weren't in their area of rice. So it's funny how we are all the same. And some kids just didn't like that, but they eat with their hands. Now these kids have been playing in the sand. Nobody said, go wash your hands. They just kneel down and they eat until they're full. And some of the bowls still had stuff in it. I think some of the kids were just too excited to be at the ocean side and just didn't eat a lot. But so off we went to meet the Jaddas. On the left is Ecc. She's the sister, and she does have sickle cell, which is a blood disease that African Americans get. And it's called sickle cell because her red blood cells are shaped differently. So they can get stuck in her bloodstream and cause pain. Now, she doesn't seem to have it very bad. She may have bouts, but the whole time we're there, she did very well, didn't have any pain, and we traveled with her. And then in the picture with all of us, there's 3 guys. The one on the left is Lamin, who I talk to every day, and the other 2 are his brothers. And the one on the right that says Chicago, they call him Beck. He's a soccer player, so I bet you can get the reference there. There's a Beckham soccer player. But his goal is to play for Barcelona. And then in the middle is their mother. Their dad passed in October, which was devastating. He's our age. He had been sick, but they don't know with what. They just don't really have great health care. When he would go to the doctor, they'd give him like Lasix and a beta blocker. So I'm pretty sure it was heart related and he would be better, but they only give pills like for a week. And then you just go off of them. And then until he got sick again, he would go back to the doctor. So that's just kind of how they doctor over there. And so it was nice meeting the other 2 brothers. I've actually talked with Ecc several times, and their mother does not speak English. So when we had to sit down with them in the room, he translated for us. But this was our beach day. For the past several years, it was Lamin's wish that he take the kids to the seaside for his birthday. And this is why we went when we did, because his birthday is February 6th, and I wanted to be at the seaside with them. That's always been a big wish of mine, which is nice in February because the mosquitoes, we didn't see 1 mosquito, and the temperature was what he called cooler, but it was 97 to 100 every day. So hot. And none of them were sweating. That's the funny thing. Craig and I are like, oh my gosh, drinking Gatorade and trying to keep up with it all, but it was a challenge. But this is their fancy beach sign up there. We rented 3 vans for them to get to the ocean side. And most of them are family, but there are some neighbors that came along. And this is, the big picture is a guy, he's working on pop cans. He's making, I don't know, they're like things that you would hang up along the edge probably for decoration is what he was doing. So then when all these, that's not even a picture of all the kids there, but all the kids love to go into the ocean, and none of the parents went into the ocean with them. So my friend, none of them swim. But if you have been at the ocean, you know that even if you go into knee high or if you go higher, it always pushes you back in. So I wasn't worried about the kids, but he's always like, Rhonda, can you come out here with me since you can swim? And the kids would hold your hand and jump up and down and loved the waves. It was just an amazing, I cried so much. It will move. Here's a picture of the group of us. This was the second day we had met them, and they were thrilled with white people. They would touch your skin, they would rub it, everybody wanted to touch your hands and hold your hands and sit in your lap. I felt like a celebrity, but we just poured out the love that they gave us. It's just an amazing group of people. And then I was sitting in the sand visiting with some of the girls, and Craig was in the ocean with some of the kids, and they did this for us, and it's Randa for Rhonda. And it's funny because they had asked Craig how to spell Craig several times, so he knew what they were doing, but they jotted it out, and then they put it all in seashells. It took them quite a while, but several kids did it. They're just so appreciative. And at the seaside, there was a place there you could get fresh juice, but we had been told don't drink anything, super fresh. That I don't think they probably ever washed the containers that they made the juice out of. The guy who lived there and had that booth, he actually lived in one room, had a mattress on the floor and like 2 plates and some silverware. And he just lived at the ocean and ate what he made money with for the day. And on the left is how they were cooking. They sell those little pots, and Craig said he did see some bricks of charcoal. I didn't pay attention to that, but I do know that they often do wood because Lemon often is chopping up the wood for that. But they were cooking chicken on there and preparing a meal for the kids. And there's Craig with the little kids. Sadly, another woman took the picture and sent it to me because I didn't have my phone at the time, and it's nice to see Craig interacting. Craig is very backward, so to be pushed with this whole loving family was a little bit challenge for him. And the food wasn't ready quite yet, and the kids were getting hungry, and I took over some Keebler striped cookies because I wanted to teach them how to make a s'more because we camp a lot, and I thought that would be nice. Until I saw the large amount of kids, I was like, I don't have enough for 2 cookies each and a marshmallow. So we decided to give the kids each a cookie while they were waiting. And I'm glad we did it then because they were melting. It was so hot. So they only go to the seaside once a year when we send them, and it is only about 20 miles for them to get there.
But it takes you about an hour.
Why?
The roads. They're terrible. And there's so many cars on the road. And you'll be going down the road, and they just have random speed bumps in the middle of the road to slow you down. And they had other methods to slow you down. So it just took forever to get there.
That's Eric and they had a couple hammocks we could hang in, and then those are the kids in the water. They would just like slam down in the water. I would think that would be an awful lot of pain, but they were so excited. That's when they looked like fish in there, just slamming into the water, having fun. But then they got the couple balls that I took, and they were playing catch or something in teams, and they had a good old time. So we do have pictures of kids we don't know their names, and that little girl followed me around on the beach. That was the plate of food that they gave us, and they're like, it's okay if you don't want to eat it. And I did take one bite, but I'm not sure where the fork came from. It might have been that guy's room, and then I'm like, oh, okay. So I only did take one bite. I wanted to try it, but we were told again not to eat from their food because you don't know how clean everything is that they're using. That was the only reason. But the chicken looked well done, but it's very spicy. The whole bit of it was spicy. And the little girl on the back, her mom kept leaning over doing something, and the poor baby was just like, up and down, up and down. It looks like they're tight, but the baby was actually a little bit looser. And it was just fascinating how they put the baby on there, tied it around, and they were 100% sure that baby was going to be fine. But that baby wasn't feeling so well. They had a cold that day. And then I'll let you, Craig, tell you about Ishmael.
The little boy there he came up and just sat on my lap, and he grabbed my phone, which I keep it locked with, so I figured I don't have to worry about anything. Next thing I know, I look down and he has my camera, and there's about 4 pictures of him, mostly from here up. But his name is Ishmael. And then they wanted pictures out on the beach, so I took the phone, and he was very upset with me.
Oh, I didn't see that part
Oh,
of it.
he was screaming at me.
So do you want to talk here?
Okay, well, I hope you're not hungry. So this is where they all live. This is what they call a compound. And the compound consists of a block wall that goes around, and they have a gate, which I think in the first picture you can see behind, or just to the right of Rhonda's head. There's a gate there. And they can close that. There's a door in it, but they can also open up both halves. And you can see there's a car in there. And that's another story in itself. So there's 3 buildings in this compound. And the backstory is his grandfather, who has since he passed last year as well, had 4 wives. And so everyone lives in this compound unless they've gotten married and moved out. So there's like 4 families in here. And each one of these buildings, they have maybe 4 or 5 rooms for them to sleep in. And the room is maybe 10 feet wide and 20 feet deep. And there's a sitting room and a bedroom. Now, some of them do have bathrooms in them, but so there's 3 buildings that are like that. And you can see, and we're outside, and they have tile that they just buy, random tile. It's all broken, it's secondhand, and they just laid it down on the ground. And that tree there is an orange tree, so they do have fresh fruit. And they were handing out candy, and it was like these kids came out of nowhere when they heard there was food. So these are just, and then we had some of the supplies that we took over, some shoes and backpacks, and they would grab them and take off. They hide stuff because if you leave it lay out, they feel it's free game. So you have to lock up your stuff. So up there in the top, that's called a donkey cart. Not a donkey car, but a donkey cart. And if you need something heavy moved, you call a guy with a donkey cart, and he comes and moves it. Although I did see a guy in a taxi attempting to put a refrigerator in the trunk of the taxi. I don't know how well that worked, and I also saw taxis going down the road with piping and sheets of like Luan board, like real thin stuff, paneling or whatever. And the taxi drivers out the window doing this, going down the road, trying to hold it on. It was tied on, and then in the middle, they don't get construction loans over there. So you buy what you can, you install it, and then you wait until you get more money. So a lot of times we would see places that were half built and it looked like a bomb went off, or something destroyed it. And he's like, no, that's how it was when they ran out of money, so they just leave it like that until they get the money and continue to build. So there were places like that all over. And even like Lamon's father was building a place before he passed away. And it was, it has walls and a roof, but that was it. But he had a family that he worked with the husband, and they had no place to stay. And they're so giving that he said, you can just stay here. Even though they had no running water, no electricity, they were just happy to have a roof over their head. And then the picture on the right, the stores, their houses, they're all clean, but they take all their garbage and throw it out to the curb. So there's just garbage everywhere. And it was kind of hard to watch because they would just sweep. And even going down the road, they would just you could see people throwing things out the window because they don't know what to do with their garbage. They do have garbage collection, but they may come every week or they may come once a month. It's not consistent. So that was probably the worst thing, was the garbage. And then I don't know if you've ever worked with a drain pipe and the water is standing in dirt or a lot of soap, and it has that. There's a certain smell, and I'm sure if you ever worked with it, you know that smell. Well, driving down the streets, you could smell that because they dump their water out into ditches, and they're clogged with garbage, so it's always standing water, and it's sad. And they have vans that will stop and pick you up. And if you don't have a seat, you just open up the back door and you hang on. We even saw people that couldn't get the back door open and they just stood on the bumper. We were really close to a car one day, and this kid was on the back, and there was nothing for him to hold on to, and he's constantly, and I thought for sure he was coming off, and we were so close that we would have run him over. But he never fell off. And then on top there you see it's a place for you to put things to carry. One day I saw one of these vans go past, and I wish I could have started a camera from the time I got off the airplane until I left. I could have, 2 weeks worth or a week's worth of video, but I couldn't. So I didn't capture everything. But somebody was going down the road and there were 2 goats on top of a van. They were transporting them somewhere. And then we were at a crocodile pool. And that was an experience. Because we're thinking, okay, they're crocodiles. We're going to walk in and they're going to be caged or behind a fence. Nope, you could go right up to them and touch them. So we really didn't want to, but we did. And as you can see, it says, don't touch any crocodile with the advice of the pool guide. And he was funny. Rhonda asked him if they ever eat people, and he said, well, only white people from America. So, but no, he said they feed them very well, fish and vegetables, so they're content. They're full, so they don't really care to, and they've never had meat, so they don't know. We're just, and I think there's so many people that come and go. So yes, I can now cross that off my bucket list. I have touched a crocodile. And everybody asks if the crocodile has something in his mouth. No. That's how they can't sweat, so that's how they sweat. And then in the bottom I think that's what's on your bulletin. And again, it was probably 95 degrees plus every day. And we would take bottles of water with us, but we probably could have taken a 5-gallon bucket of water. And still, we were dehydrated every day because it's just so hot. And they don't have air conditioning in their cars. So it's very hot. And then we went to the monkey park. And so this monkey here, his name's Joe. And we started, and in the middle is Lemon, and then our guide who took us to look for monkeys. And so what they do when they go through the park looking for monkeys, they go, ow, ow, ow. So whenever we would get together afterwards, that was our little joke when we were looking for each other. We would whistle. But the other guides did it too, so it was just constant. It was very funny. But he had them come up on the tree, and he gave us pieces of banana, and he would take a banana out of our hand and eat it. And to tell you about these people, our guide here, he wanted us to go back deep, and there's red monkeys, and you can actually pet them. These are called green monkeys, and you don't really touch them because they don't like it. Well, Rhonda had one of her spells, and she says, I can't go any farther. And of course, we didn't have enough water with us that day. This man left the park, and I don't know how far he went, but he bought us 2 big bottles of water, and brought it back to us. And never asked for a penny. And so when we left, we gave him a nice tip because of what he did. But he wanted to refuse it. He didn't want that. He did it out of the kindness of his heart. And that's the way these people are. They do things that I wish in America we would do. Amen. Mm-hmm. And Jerry, I'll have to tell you, I thought of you when I was over there because one Sunday here in church you said, no matter what, give thanks. And these people give thanks for things they have that we throw away. The car we rode in, if there was a light on that dashboard that could be on, it was on. It probably had 2 gears. But they were so thankful for what they had. And like I said, they have things we have, but they're not nice. They work on the things they have to keep them. You know, if we have a ding in, like the windows they put in their houses, they're scratch and dent windows. We would never think of putting them in our house. They love them. So these people are so appreciative of what they have, and they don't complain about it, what they don't have. So it was quite an experience. The tree there is called baobab, or I forget. It's some type of a tree, but it produces fruit, and the leaves are very nutritious. And the fruit that you can get actually drinks over there from the fruit. But because this was in the monkey park, the monkeys ate all the fruit, stripped the leaves off all the trees because it's very good for them. And again, just some more monkeys. No, that's not me there. Those are. And so we paid. What they have is their money is called a Dallas. So one of our dollars is equal to 67 Dallases. We have some money. We'll show you later here. And to get in, we paid, what was it, $100? No.
That was the total.
Yeah, it was $600, and then for the guide was $1,200. But, just have that monkey on your shoulder was just too much. It was really fun.
So it was like $15 for 5 of us to get
Yeah.
into the monkey park. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cheap. Everything, we bought 2.5 dozen eggs. It was roughly $6, $6 American dollars for 2.5 dozen. You pay that for a dozen here.
Mm-hmm.
There were some things that were expensive, but for the most part, everything, if they grow, bananas were like $1 for a bunch of bananas, if even that. It was really cheap. So this is their new compound that they're building, new house. That's the front porch. And this little girl, Aisha, that's his niece. And she spent the week with us. She was supposed to be in school, but she's very strong-willed. And she said, no, I'm staying with you. But not in English, because she can't speak English. So her and I would get up every morning and try to make omelets. Did you ever try to make an omelet with a 9-year-old that doesn't speak English? One morning she didn't want the way I was making my omelet because I put fresh green peppers in it. She was like, no. So her finger was always doing this. No. That was one word she did know. So she had her own egg she was carrying around with her. And I said, we'll get to it, put it on the counter. Like I pointed. She went, no. And she held it close. So I finally got my egg done, was preparing the pan for hers, and I hear splat. Turn around, and there's the egg on the... And she wanted to grab the spatula and scoop it up to put it into the pan. And I went, no. And she went, yes. I grabbed the paper towel and scooped it up and took it to the garbage can, and she was mad that I was wasting food. They do not waste food. These little kids, she had a bag of chips, and if they dropped a chip on the floor, didn't matter. Right back. I mean, food is something that they do not waste. So she was very upset with me, but we had a good time. And then the little bugger in the middle, it was hard to get pictures of them. They were very skittish, but there was 3 of them running around on the wall. And then in there, like I said, there's somebody else living in their house right now, and they have this couch that's sitting out in the yard. Don't know why, but there it is. And then this is a little girl that's living there with her family, and she kept playing peek with us. She would come around the door, and then, of course, there I am on my phone, which they love their phones over there. They all have phones, and I think they're probably worse than Americans when it comes to their phones. I didn't think I would ever say that, but they're constantly on there. Even if they were here right now, they would be on their phone. And then back there in the corner, that is your shower and toilet. So, and Rhonda did go to one of their toilets, and there is a hole in the ground. And that's it. So, they do have walls around it, so, you have your privacy. And not to gross you out, but they do not use toilet paper. And that was one thing we made sure that we bought. They do sell it, but that's a luxury to them. They don't get toilet paper. And that's them sitting on the front porch. And then on the right there, that's a handmade hand broom. They were using it to sweep. Like I said, they keep the houses very clean. So, but they just sweep everything outside then. But they did have chickens, and where they roosted was in the kitchen of this house. We walked in, and I heard a rooster. I'm like, where's the rooster? And I turned the corner, and there he is in the corner, in the kitchen. So. And up there, we did have a washer in our apartment, and Aisha had never seen a washer. And she sat there like it was a TV, just watching the clothes go round and round. And, of course, they have things that we have. That's margarine, and then there's a juice box. And then they have just different fresh fruit mixes. And then that's the door to every room. They have the handle, and then they have a lock underneath it. Well, you would think that, the key would stay in there and you would lock. No, you can pull it out, go outside, close the door, and lock it. So if you're in the bathroom, want to play a prank on somebody, you just pull the door, lock it, and they can't get out. Why they do that, I have no idea. The other thing that I don't think there's a picture of it, but all the outlets had switches on them. So you'd plug something in, and it's like, why isn't this working? Well, you have to flip the switch to get the outlet to work. And this was our apartment complex. And you can't see it, but down at the end, there's a gate. And they had guards there that made sure nobody just came and went. And then at night, they had two men that walked around all dressed in black with a mask, and all you could see were their eyes. And they had an automatic weapon over their shoulder. And they were our guards, and they made sure nothing happened at night, which I felt safe with that. And then on their back, they said SWAT. So I don't know if they had a lot of crime. We never saw any crime. We never felt like we were in danger, but they were there. And this was our pool, and there's some grass over there, and that's probably the only grass we ever saw when we were over there. And then Aisha again grabbed my phone and took a picture of me in the pool. And that was a funny thing. The first time we took her, they don't swim. And this pool, in America, you step in and it's 3 feet, and then it works its way down. No. Over there, I was on my tippy toes, and the water was right here with my chin up. And that was the whole length. So I go out to swim, and she was like, Craig, no, come. She was worried that I was going to drown. So she did not, but there was a little area there, it's like 12 inches deep, and she played in it. And there's Aisha again with my phone, taking selfies. And then we went to an open market. And that was an experience. They pretty much every booth had homemade stuff, and they were pretty much the same, but a little bit different. But when we went in, and this is in their capital of Banjul, and his sister, Ecc, that was with us, is 25.
Mm-hmm.
And when we went, that was the first time she'd ever been to the capital. They just don't travel like that. And I just think, how many times, have we been to Harrisburg and never you don't think about it, or even Washington, D.C. It's like there's a lot of us take all that for granted, and they just don't do it. So when we walked into the open market, they had an area where vendors were selling fresh meats on a 95-degree day, no refrigeration, no ice. I think there were more flies than there was fresh meat.
Mm-hmm.
Did you put that picture in here?
I don't know if it's on the next one or not.
No. It might be in here, but I took a picture of some fish, and you can barely see the fish for the flies. But they were selling it, and I'm sure people were eating it. So, but anyway, and here they would say, Rhonda would buy something, and they would say that's 4,000 Dallases, which is
Like $20.
$20. And Lemon would go, no. And they would barter and get it down to 13 or 15, whatever, and they would agree on it, and Rhonda would pay. But it was just funny. They would go back and forth, and just more of the monkey park. And when you got a camera out, these kids, they just wanted to get their picture taken with you. They were so happy that we were there. And that's more of the compound. And then we had a good friend here that made these shirts for us. Thank you, Dory. Langboy loved his shirt. And they can't pronounce the R in Rhonda, so it's Londa. So that's why she had that on her shirt. And then up in the corner there was a gentleman there. He was teaching his kids to, schooling while he tried to sell things. And he was trying to get us to support these kids. And I said, well, we already support this family, so I can only do so much. And he thanked me for what we were doing. So, and that's where they were selling all the fresh. I mean, there were chicken legs. There was, you name it. Except they're Muslims, so they don't have pork. But they had fish, chicken. I'm sure they had some beef and lamb there, but. And then that was just one of the stands. They were selling some type of hat. And then the gentleman on the left there, his name is Malik. And Rhonda said, "Oh, Malik." And Lamon goes, "No, Malik." And he goes, "I like the way she says it better." So all week she would call him Malik or Malik. And he just loved it. But he's one of 10. Okay, here's another story about their generosity. He's one of 10. He drove us around all week long. We finally said, "How can you afford a car?" He says, "I can't." "Well, how do you have a car?" He goes, "It's the family car." We're like, "Does your dad work?" "Yep." "How's he getting to work?" "Well, he's getting a ride from somebody else so that I can give you a ride all week long." He gave up his car for us.
Yeah, and then tell him how much he wanted to drive us.
And so all he asked for was $20 a day. And it was like, and then he didn't want anything else. Well, we were like, "No. When we go eat, you're going to eat with us." And we paid for his meals. When we got gas, we paid for his gas. And I still gave him enough money, $20 a day. Well, not quite, but he didn't even want that at the end of the week because of what we gave him in food. And like I said, they don't eat that much. So when we went out and eat and had large portions, they felt like kings and queens because they just don't get that much food. And then this little boy here, again, he just came up and got between my legs, and he was happy right there, beside me. So, and there's more. And this was in a grocery store. And they have coolers and, all the things that, they have Heinz ketchup. They have Kellogg's cereal. Their cereal has no preservatives, no artificial colors, no artificial flavors. And it was the best cereal I've ever had. And their milk is not homogenized or pasteurized. It's whole milk with cream and everything. And you can use, they last about 5 days. Eggs, like I said, they were cheap, but there was a stack of them beside the cash register, not in a cooler, and we never did refrigerate them. This was at a place we ate, and again, that's his brother on the right, Beck. And then we took over a teddy bear because that's what Aisha wanted. So we couldn't get it in a suitcase, so we carried it on the airplane everywhere we went till we got over there. Got a lot of strange looks, but, and I think that's a little boy there. And that's just a relative.
Well, that was Usman, who his parents died when he was young, so they just took him in. So he's been part of their compound for his life because that's just what his dad does. Mm-hmm. So he lives at the new place as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But he had never really touched a woman before, and you should have seen it. Like, he's nervous because Rhonda put her arm around him, and he was like, "Ooh." And again, that's Lamon's mother. And that the shawl that she has on is she's in mourning. And so hopefully this week her period of mourning will be over and she'll be able to, she's not even allowed to leave the compound during this time. So for the last 4.5 months, she's been in her room. And then another relative and another relative. We just loved their dresses. And as you can tell, they gave us all our outfits. And this was at our beach, and again at the market. Just different pictures. And then that is Aisha's brother, and he is in a boarding school. And then we went to the orange plantation. So the man with the tassel cap on, yes, that is a tassel cap in 95-degree weather. His father owns this orange plantation, and he was so happy we were there. And I know I had to have eaten 10 to 15 oranges. And it was like, oh, here's another type. Here's another type. And it was just like, stop. Well, eating that many oranges is like eating too many apples. It does a number on you. And then he gave us a whole bag of oranges to take home with us. So, and he's like, you take those back to America. I said, I can't take them back to America. They won't let me take those on the plane. But they only get rain in like September, October, November area. And when they get rain, they get rain. But the rest of the year, it's dry. But all these trees had plenty of fruit, and they're not orange. Their skins are green. They have a little bit of orange tint, but they're green. And so we said, how do you keep them watered? Because we didn't see any hoses or any type. He takes a 5-gallon bucket, and every day he goes out and waters each one by hand, each tree by hand. And every 3 days he has to water. So I'm sure he cycles them, but he's out there every day watering these trees so that they'll produce. And I just think we have a hard time getting people to get out of bed. And again, at their new compound. And then Rhonda. I've never seen her smile so much in my life. She was happy. Monkeys, and then more oranges. Ah, there's the fish.
Can't really see all
You can't see all the flies on there, but there's a lot of flies on there. There you go. Yeah. And then this woman, when we were leaving the first day, she came and threw her arms around us, gave us kisses, and she was happy. And then when we left, we said, who was that? It was the neighbor. She was just happy to see us. And there's Rhonda and Aisha. And we went out to eat.
That was the first night.
Yeah.
We hadn't slept.
Yeah, we hadn't slept in 24 hours, and we went out to eat, and it was a Lebanese restaurant. So we were a little worried, but the food was it was fabulous. And you eat outside because there's no chance of rain. So it was neat. I don't think we have a picture of it, but one night we ate out, and it was by a pool because it was at a motel. And a cat came out of the kitchen, walked down the steps, and sat down beside me. Never begged for food, but it was just odd to see a cat beside you while you're trying to eat. Unless you have one in your house, you're used to it, but... And that was... Oh, these are...
Good morning.
This is Aisha and her... Would be your cousin.
And they had Corinne's shoes on that she sent over.
You just turn it off.
Okay.
Don't be scared. They will not do anything. Absolutely.
Now is it on, Craig? How can I tell?
Lights blinking. You hear them calling
Is it?
the monkeys there?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So I sent a video to Ryan and Ashley.
Grandpa, I know that monkey is staring on your arm.
So I got that back.
They love you.
What?
But it was so interesting. Now we were leaving the crocodile park, and this is just the garbage that you'll see. And those are houses there.
Oh my. I thought they'd be like in cages or something.
So, and again, there's people, there's all kinds of things. So they drive more with their horns than they do their steering wheel. They were constantly blowing the horn at each other.
Is that a video?
I think so, but they're looking for. Oh,
Just wait, just wait. Just wait, just wait.
Aisha was afraid.
Just wait. No,
Yeah.
just wait. I gotta help you. Yeah. You know, their favorite food is banana. So normally, this one they overfeed them with
but
skin.
the funny thing, Aisha was afraid of things, and so
It is video time.
when we went to the crocodile park, she didn't want to go see the crocodiles, and there was a woman sitting there, and they just left her with this woman because they felt secure that nothing was going to happen to her. We said we would never do that in America, never. And they're like, "Oh, it's fine." So do you want to?
Oh, well, the money that we took, he just bought this week of the cement. You can see the floors are done. They're actually concrete, but they're rough, so they'll smooth that out. And then on the right, they're putting in the toilet, so they're making the drains and stuff. He won't do that, but they do hire it done. And they bought 11 windows. I gave them $1,700, and with that, they'll buy a toilet, shower, and 11 windows and all the concrete. So things are quite a bit cheaper over there. I think that's it. Yeah, and it was just a dream come true to be at the seaside with them. And I've also seen his, oh, geez, you talked a long time,
I
Craig.
did. I could talk longer.
I've seen them, they've been working on that house about 6 years, and I've seen him actually pour the sand and make cement and make the blocks for the house. So being there was very emotional to be able to be there and see how well it's coming along and that people can actually live there now. But it was an amazing trip. And we plan to go back, maybe not next year, but maybe in 2 years. Thanks for your time.
And I guess my point that I got out of this whole trip was, no matter what happens in your life, be thankful for what you have, even if it doesn't always work, because seeing how these people live, the first 2 days, I had a problem with guilt. I felt so guilty because the things that I have and the things I complain about not having, or it's nothing for them. And also, be kind. They do anything for. We send stuff over there, and we'll ask them what happened to it. Well, so and so needed it worse than I did. And they give freely. And I just, sometimes we worry about how much money we have, but in reality, we're millionaires compared to these people. And we tipped a waiter $1,600, which is $15 or $10. The next night we went, and we got yelled at by Lamon because that was too much to tip. However, the next night we went back to the same restaurant. He was right there and gave us the best service we ever had. And they appreciate the smallest things. And sometimes we don't appreciate the big things that God gives us. So.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I mean, there's a lot to take from that. God's provision, His timing, gratitude, and just what we can learn. And expectations, our attitudes affect us a great deal on how we react to things, how we perceive things, and just having that attitude of gratitude toward Christ and what He's done for us too. So let's close our time with a word of prayer, and then we'll dismiss. Lord, thank you so much for your provision. We thank you for this opportunity that Craig and Rhonda had to go and share with the family and extended family, Lord, just how you work. And I pray that you just work with seeds that have been planted, and we thank you for the lessons they learned and what we can learn as well. Guide us, now we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Again, we have our annual meeting downstairs, so you're welcome to join us. Members can vote on anything that we have to vote on, but that's downstairs.